So the key for this build is to charge as many reps as possible and in a very short time deliver many reps non-stop. So but the challenge is with the endurance control because every rep consumes endurance, so the endurance control becomes the key success for this build. And the good news is your speed recover endurance, and in the perfect speed rotations, you will not running out of endurance with proper control in the rotation, skill rotations. So I will explain everything for this build now for you. So let's go. The gear start best to have mandatory is your max physical attack. You listen to this very often, right? And also second is your affinity, momentums, and power. So all these four is mandatory. You need to have this one as much as possible. And the stat is good to have is your max bell strike attack. So this can be an alternative. It is not the best, but it's also okay to have as a replacement to your max physical attack because everything is RNG, right? And the stat that is not bad to have is your critical rate and precision rate. These two is not mandatory, you can without them, that is okay also. But it's good to have also. Other than all these three categories, other stats are really fail stat. There's totally no use, no contributions, little contributions to your build. So you need to control the mandatory stat as much as you can. So for the gear tunings, so for your 4 offensive gear set, so always tune the gear with the initial start as your max physical attack. If you see max physical attack, only you tune your weapons. In this case, you can get 2 max physical attacks in one piece of gear. So look at my gear, I need to get 2 for every offensive piece for the max physical attacks. Then for the crown and armor, always pick affinity red as your initial start. Then you can get 2 affinity stat in one gear. Then for the leg armor and bracer, pick power as your initial stat. You can get 2 power in one gear in this case. Then look at the stat details. So here's my details. So the power and momentum is best to control above 300. So this is very optimum. Then for the max physical attacks, so it's best to control at 2800 value and above it is better. Then for the affinity rate, this is also important. It's best to control at 45 and above. If you have 50, you are at the end games. Then for the physical penetrations, it's best to above 30. So you need to have 4 offensive gear attunements as physical penetration, 4 times for gear. And the gear set is better to use the jet ray after the update. So this one boosts your max physical attack, and the set effects for set also give you a 3D damage bonus also. So make sure the bow and ring you also have this affinity set for the affinity bonus, right? Then for the attunements, so you need to have 4 physical penetrations in your offensive gear attunements. Then also for your defensive gear attunements, it's mandatory to have 4 Nameless sword charge skill damage bonus. So this one is fully mandatory. Physical penetrations and sword charge skill bonus. So this is really mandatory. Then for the Innerway sword morph, so you need to have tier 6 because at tier 6 you can do double wave, 6 wave every 20 seconds. This boosts a lot of your DPS. Then the second one is your Mountain Smite. This extends your endurance and let you have your sword charge skill continuously non-stop. And better impact is also quite important because it increases the damage of your Nameless sword charge skill. Because most of your time you will be doing the charge skill. So this is the best one that's fit for the current builds. Then for the missing skills, the standard ones, this is must have for every build. First is a Soaring Breeze, then Dragon Breath, Dragon Poet, Soaring Spins. So you listen to all this a lot of time already in other builds, right? So this is very mandatory. The other important mystic skill are your fluid skill. This is for your boss fight. Then you need to have this ghostly stand also, which can reduce your endurance of your charge skill. You can charge more sword wave. So other mystic skill is up to your own personal preference. So all these are mandatory. So you can put whatever you like into your build. Then for the skill buff and skill rotations, this is very important because you need to ensure delivering the sword charge skill without breakings. Read non-stop charging the sword charge skill with better control of your endurance and control your buff all time. So first buff is your sword martial arts skill, the key imbalance. And look at this skill, actually you don't have to charge to your opponents, you just have to use the animation card parry to prevent you to charge forward. Why deliver this key imbalance to your opponent? That's enough already. Don't charge forward, just deliver the buff, that's enough. Then for the spirit martial arts skill, Q skill, it restores your endurance for every 12-second cooldown. So it's very important to use this martial arts skill often every time after the cooldown to restore your endurance, because endurance is always your bottleneck. Then at the start before your sword charge skill, remember to activate your sword special skill with the animation parry card to have this multi-wave buff turn on all times. Then after turn on for the first time, you don't have to use your sword special skill again, because if you are at the tier 6 of sword mode, so you no need to charge again for your second wave, because every 5-second interval, if you deliver your charge skill within 5-second interval, you don't have to use your sword special skill again to recharge this multi-wave buff. So it will stay there for 5 seconds. So continuous charging every 5 seconds non-stop. So keep this buff activated all time. Then other skill like your spirit special skill and spirit charge skill, you can totally ignore them if you want. Then if you like them, you can use them also in your PvP. Then for the foot buff, then first is the ginseng meatball. So this one boosts your max physical attacks. So eat the ginseng often before the boss fight. Then for the endurance buff, you can go to the Typhon cities. Man is here, woman is here. Go in and spend a commerce coin to get the endurance buff. Then you can use the affinity script. This is optional. Then for the diving craft, often use the fire oil. Then remember turn on the auto use in the game settings. Then for the skill rotation, start with the fire oil diving craft. Then use the ghostly stat first. Then the spirit Q skill with parry animation card. Then start with the flute with animation parry card also. Then only start with your sword charge skill. Then one time first charge skill. Then after the charge skill, immediately release your sword martial arts skill for the key imbalance buff. Then continue to animation card with the RP, which is your sword special skill for the second wave. Then the skill rotation is basically repetitive. It is about charging your sword often and keep your skill martial arts skill every 12 seconds to recover your endurance, and keep your sword martial arts skill for the key imbalance buff for all times. So that's all about the videos. Hope you do well in this build. So I really enjoy this Nameless sword after switching speed. I really feel very satisfied and I like it a lot. So I will stay in this build for quite a while, because this build is really good in delivering DPS. So I always easily climb up to the top damage chance. Bring out some satisfactions to the games. So we handle this build because of the DPS, right? So hope you enjoy this build. So that's all for the videos. Bye bye. Thanks for watching.